Hello humans, today I am on Supernova's channel again. I have watched quite a few of his videos. I really enjoy them. Link down in the description. Go give him a subscribe, watch his videos. You can watch the video I'm watching here. You can watch it on his channel without me pausing, interrupting, asking questions, all that stuff that I'm going to do in this video. Without further ado, let's get started.
Project Mercury. This was NASA's first human spaceflight program, designed to answer the fundamental question, can a human survive in space?
I don't think I said this video is on NASA's space programs. All of them. Just a high-level overview. 1,000-foot overview. 10,000-mile overview. Just an overview.
Using a tiny, one-person capsule, the program successfully put the first Americans into space.
It's crazy how tiny those capsules were. I went down to... Now, I am a big dude. I'll give you that. But I went down to Kennedy Space Center a few months ago, and they have one of those down there that you can try to get into. I didn't even try. I walked up to the door, and then I was like, nope. I just wouldn't have gone to space in the 60s. That would have been that.
Included Alan Shepard's suborbital hop and John Glenn's historic first orbital flight, proving that humans could function in weightlessness and paving the way for more ambitious missions. The Mercury 7 astronauts also
Wow, look at those suits. You know what's funny? Those suits look like the kinds of things aliens and astronauts wore in 60s sci-fi movies. Which now it makes more sense because they literally wore... they look like giant flashlights. You know, the old metal, chromy flashlight. That's what they look like. That's hilarious. It's crazy to see how much we've evolved, spacesuit wise. Why are the zippers across the... I'm going to have to watch a video about these spacesuits. I did watch, finally, I've been trying to get to it forever. I did finally watch a video about kind of an overview of the spacesuits and kind of the ones they use on the International Space Station specifically. I'm going to have to find a video about each and every kind of spacesuit because this is really fascinating to me that they started with these robot-looking chrome spacesuits and then went into the white and then went into the orange and then went back into the white and then back into the orange and all sorts of fun stuff.
became the public face of NASA's early promise and helped build national support for the moon race. Project Gemini.
Okay.
The crucial bridge between Mercury and Apollo.
Yeah, so Mercury, as I understand it, was one person. Then you had Gemini, which was two people, and I heard the astronauts from Gemini say it was like having two people inside of a phone booth. That's how much space they had. Then Apollo was three people, and Apollo astronauts said it was like having three people inside of a Volkswagen Beetle, which is more room than a phone booth, but less room than you would want. And then Artemis was four people, and they said it's like having four people inside of a 12-passenger van, which is great. That's a big improvement for four people to go from three people in a Volkswagen Bug to four people in a 12-passenger van. That's pretty good. And I think it was actually a little bit bigger than the inside of a 12-passenger van if you've ever been inside one. But anyways.
Gemini was a two-person spacecraft designed to master the complex skills needed to go to the moon. Over 10 missions, its astronauts performed the first American spacewalks.
It's really kind of scary seeing that this happened, just because, you see how big the spacesuits are nowadays. They're beefy things. This looks like, it's a skinny spacesuit compared to the modern day spacesuits. I can only imagine the amount of features they didn't have, life support systems they didn't have. It must have been really cold or really hot in there, one or the other. It's crazy that they did this.
Practiced orbital rendezvous and docking maneuvers for the first time, and proved humans could endure up to 2 weeks in space. All non-negotiable requirements for a lunar mission. Missions like Gemini 8 and Gemini 12 sharpened docking and EVA techniques that directly informed Apollo's operational playbook.
Okay.
Apollo.
I think Apollo is the one that I'm the most familiar with, besides Artemis, and probably what most people are most familiar with.
A monumental program that fulfilled a national goal to land a man on the moon and return him safely to Earth.
Yeah,
Powered by the colossal Saturn V rocket, the
I love
Apollo
the Saturn
program was a
V.
masterpiece of engineering and human courage. From the tragedy of Apollo 1 to the
Mhm.
triumph of Apollo 11's first steps and the near disaster of Apollo 13, it remains the pinnacle of human exploration.
If you want me to watch Apollo 13, the movie, I'm toying around with the idea of watching movies on this channel. Let me know. Drop a comment. I'd appreciate it.
Apollo also returned an unprecedented trove of lunar samples and data that reshaped modern planetary science.
Yeah, the Apollo missions brought back like 800 pounds of space rocks, something like that. I can't remember the exact number. Go back a few videos on this channel, and I did a Smarter Everyday video where he talked about how many pounds of space rocks they brought back. It was a lot, though. They brought back a lot of rocks.
Skylab.
Okay, and I know I'm pausing it literally every other second. From here on out, this is all new to me. All new. I know nothing about the space program coming into starting this channel only a couple months ago. And so far, I've learned a little bit about Mercury, a little bit about Gemini, a whole bunch about the Apollo, and then I've been trying to cover all the current event Artemis stuff. All these other programs, I know nothing about any of these.
America's first space station. Built from a converted third stage of a Saturn V rocket, Skylab
cool.
was a massive orbital workshop.
Huh.
It hosted 3 crews in 1973 and 1974, who set new records for long-duration spaceflight while conducting a wide range of solar astronomy, medical, and Earth observation experiments.
Does his spacesuit say bear? Or does it say bean? Is he Sean Bean or Bear Grylls?
Wide range of solar astronomy, medical, and Earth observation experiments. It was the first time Americans learned to truly live and work in space for extended periods. The first crew's dramatic on-orbit repairs after launch damage proved that complex, improvised space maintenance was possible. Apollo-Soyuz test project.
Skylab was the first American space station. I don't know anything about the space stations. That will also be in an upcoming video. I've got a running list of about, and I'm not even exaggerating, I've got about 400 videos on a queue list that I'm working my way down. Every time I log on to YouTube and see a cool video on my homepage, I just add it to the video queue. And I've been working through that list, and I'm putting out a video a day. So in 400 days, you'll see all the videos I've queued up. But I would like to do some more research into the space stations specifically.
Project, the mission that ended the space race. In 1975, an American Apollo spacecraft docked with a Soviet Soyuz capsule in Earth orbit.
Really?
And the two rival crews shook hands through the open hatch.
That's cool.
This was the first international crewed mission in history. More than a technical test, it was a powerful symbol of a new era of détente and cooperation in space. Its docking collaboration helped set the tone for later international partnerships that culminated in the ISS era.
That is, let me just say, that is my favorite thing about space, is that all the nations on Earth are working together to do stuff in space. And I love that. And I wish we could work together to do stuff on Earth, but it's just not going to happen, apparently.
Space Shuttle. For 30 years, this was the backbone of American human spaceflight.
I am familiar with the Shuttle program. I forgot to say that after the Apollo. Not all of the stuff after Apollo is new to me. I do know a little bit about the shuttles.
The Space Shuttle was the world's first
so
reusable orbital spacecraft, a winged vehicle that launched like a rocket and landed like a glider. The 5-orbiter fleet deployed and repaired satellites like Hubble, performed cutting-edge science in its Spacelab module, and was the primary construction vehicle for the International Space Station.
Okay.
The tragedies of Challenger and Columbia also fundamentally reshaped NASA's safety culture and long-term strategy.
Yeah. I will eventually watch something on this. On the Challenger, I think, was the big one. The Columbia was the not as... Like, they were both big deals. People lost their lives. I don't want to trivialize that. But the Challenger, I think, is the one that stands out in people's minds about, loss in the space program. So I will eventually watch something about that. But I want to be a little bit better versed in my space knowledge and my knowledge of the shuttle program, of NASA, of the astronauts who were, in this phase of era before I get into that. So I have a full picture context of the disaster.
Constellation. The Constellation program was NASA's first major effort in the 21st century to return humans to the moon and then go on to Mars.
Oh.
Conceived in the wake of the Columbia disaster.
That looks really weird. Normally they're thicker on the bottom and skinnier on the top, not the other way around. Huh.
As a replacement for the space shuttle, the program planned a new fleet of vehicles: the Ares 1 rocket for crew, the heavy-lift Ares 5 for cargo, and the Orion crew capsule with its Altair lunar lander.
Okay.
The program was ultimately canceled in 2010 due to being over budget and behind schedule, but its legacy survives in the Orion capsule, which was adapted to become the centerpiece of the Artemis program.
Very interesting that started with a different program and then translated over. I want to do more research into all these programs. If there's a specific program they cover today that you're like, you should do more research about that, you literally drop a comment and it'll go to the top of my priority list, because I want to be engaging with you, the fans, the people who are watching my videos, who I thoroughly appreciate, by the way. There are 24 amazing humans out there who've decided to subscribe to me. And there are plenty more people who are not subscribed but are still watching my videos, and I appreciate you guys too. So you want to drop a comment, let me know the things you want me to cover, and those will go to the top of the queue.
Constellation also influenced later debates about heavy lift design choices that shaped the path to SLS. ISS, the largest and most complex machine ever built in space. As the lead partner in a global collaboration, NASA's role was to coordinate and build this football field-sized orbiting laboratory. It has been continuously inhabited by multinational crews since 2000, serving as humanity's outpost for long-duration microgravity research and a testbed for technologies needed to go to Mars.
Okay.
The U.S. segment continues to host thousands of experiments spanning medicine, materials, robotics, and commercial research.
That's good to know, because I genuinely had questioned in the past, what do they do up there? I know they've been floating up there for 26 years now. What do they do for 26 years? So that gives me some more context.
CRS. This program represents the crucial first step in commercializing space logistics. Beginning with a development phase called COTS, NASA acted as a customer, funding private companies like SpaceX and Orbital Sciences to create new rockets and robotic cargo capsules.
If you watch any of my videos, you'll see I've been questioning. I'm like, what is the relationship between NASA and all these different space agencies? Now I'm starting to piece it together.
The goal was to establish a reliable and cost-effective way to deliver supplies to the International Space Station after the Space Shuttle's retirement. The program has been a resounding success, with SpaceX's Dragon and Northrop Grumman's Cygnus becoming the station's lifeline, and it proved the public-private partnership model that made the Commercial Crew program possible.
I didn't even know about the Northrop Grumman Cygnus. Is that what they said? I'm going to have to add that to my list of things to look up. In addition to my 400 video list that I have queued, I also have a running list of things I want to look into eventually. And that list has maybe 250 items on it. I've got a lot of content, is what I'm saying. This channel will never be out of content. It'll just be a determining factor of, I'll probably get to the 6 month or a year mark on this channel and be like, do I have more than 50 subscribers? If I don't, that's probably it for me. But, up until then, this is going to be fun.
Follow-on cargo contracts expanded provider options and helped ensure long-term supply resilience for the ISS. Commercial Crew. A revolutionary shift in how NASA operates. Instead of owning and operating its own vehicles, NASA now acts as a customer, paying private companies, namely SpaceX and Boeing, to provide transport services for astronauts to and from the ISS. The program successfully ended America's sole reliance on the Russian Soyuz for crew access to the ISS, and opened up a new commercial economy in low Earth orbit.
Oh, so we were paying the Russians to send people to the International Space Station? That's really interesting. That follows a similar plot line. There's a show called Stargate, which I adore, am a huge fan of. And in that show, they had to like rely on the Russians for a lot of the Stargate stuff. I'm sure they were pulling that out of like real life scenarios. That's really interesting.
The two-provider approach is meant to preserve redundancy and keep U.S. crew access secure even if one system faces delays.
Okay, redundancy is good.
Artemis, the
There it
successor
is.
to Apollo. Artemis is NASA's program to return humans to the moon in a sustainable way, this time with the goal of establishing a long-term presence.
You know, it's interesting. They say in a sustainable way, but NASA is still using one-time use rockets, and SpaceX and Blue Origin are now using reusable rockets. So it's not really sustainable. It's not nearly as sustainable as it could be if they were just using SpaceX or Blue Origin tech, but currently they're still using one-use rockets, which I would say is not sustainable.
Using the powerful SLS rocket and the Orion capsule, the program aims to establish a long-term human presence on the moon, test technologies needed for Mars, and build the Lunar Gateway, an outpost orbiting the moon. The program is also designed to create a repeatable lunar logistics system rather than a single short burst of exploration.
Cool.
CLPS. CLPS extends the successful commercial model to the moon in direct support of the Artemis program. Under this initiative, NASA is not building its own robotic landers, but is instead buying rides on a variety of landers built and operated by different private companies.
Yes.
The
I'm
goal
aware.
is to rapidly and affordably deliver dozens of NASA science instruments and technology demonstrations to the lunar
Okay.
surface.
Okay, so I guess they're partnering with all these other programs, not just for efficiency and financing sake, but also for speed's sake. I guess I'm learning that they can, if they buy a bunch of stuff from a bunch of different companies, then they can send up a bunch of stuff all at once, or a very large amount of stuff over a shorter amount of time than if they were trying to do it all themselves. So I guess that makes sense. Outsourcing. NASA is outsourcing. I understand now.
These missions act as robotic scouts, gathering crucial data on landing sites and resources ahead of and alongside the crewed Artemis missions. Over time, CLPS is intended to build a steady cadence of smaller lunar deliveries that
I commented on this on a previous video. I don't get why they use wheels on the moon. Like, it's really rough terrain and there's a lot of like space dirt that's really toxic apparently. Why don't they use a track system? That just makes way more sense to me.
complements larger NASA-led missions. Ranger, the first American missions to reach the moon. The Ranger probes were essentially kamikaze missions, designed to take as many close-up pictures as possible in the final minutes before they crashed into the lunar surface.
Interesting.
After many early failures, the later missions were a success, providing the first detailed images of the moon and helping planners select sites for Apollo. Ranger 7, 8, and 9 alone returned thousands of high-resolution images that dramatically improved lunar mapping.
It's a really interesting
Surveyor,
approach.
the essential reconnaissance for Apollo. This program of robotic soft landers proved that the lunar surface was solid enough to support the weight of a heavy lander. The Surveyor probes touched down safely, took panoramic pictures of their surroundings, and used robotic arms to test the soil, providing the final engineering confidence needed to send the Apollo lunar module.
Crazy the tech they were using in robotics, like in the 60s, early 60s. Really crazy the technology they had. I mean, robotics technology is seen as like a more recent development, but apparently it's not.
Surveyor 3 was even visited by Apollo 12 astronauts, creating
Oh.
a rare direct link between robotic scouting and human exploration.
Cool.
Mariner, the series of probes that gave humanity its first close-up look at the inner planets. Mariner spacecraft were the first to fly by Venus, revealing its hellish, high-temperature environment. The first to fly by Mars, showing a cratered moon-like surface, and the first to fly by Mercury. They were the true robotic trailblazers of interplanetary exploration.
Cool.
Mariner 9 also became the first spacecraft to successfully orbit another planet, setting the standard for modern planetary reconnaissance.
I wonder why he chose to put them in this order. A canonical timeline order would have been appreciated, but I'm sure there's a method to the madness here.
Pioneer. The first probes to brave the outer solar system. Pioneer 10 and 11 were the first spacecraft to cross the main asteroid belt, the first to fly by Jupiter, and the first to get a close look at Saturn.
Cool.
They carried the famous golden plaques with a message from humanity.
I forgot all about these plaques. I learned about these plaques in school when I was a kid. Interesting. I'm going to have to do more research on these plaques. I'm really curious to see how they came up with all the things they decided. Like the map, I'm pretty sure that's what that is, right? On the left, that's a map of where we are in the solar system. The left and the bottom. I think that's what that is. I'm going to have to look it up. I forgot all about these plates.
Humanity. They were the pathfinders that proved the journey was possible. The broader Pioneer family also included important solar and Venus missions, showing how early NASA program labels often covered multiple exploration goals. Voyager. Arguably the most successful robotic exploration program ever launched. The twin Voyager 1 and 2 spacecraft took advantage of a rare planetary alignment to conduct a grand tour of the outer solar system, visiting Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune. They are now in interstellar space, still transmitting data and carrying the famous golden records as messages.
Golden records. I don't know if I knew about the records. I think I just knew about the plates. I wonder how they're different and how they're similar and why.
To the cosmos. Voyager 2 remains the only spacecraft to have visited Uranus and Neptune up close, making its discoveries uniquely irreplaceable.
Pretty color.
Viking. The first successful, long-term missions on the surface of Mars. In 1976, the two Viking orbiter lander pairs went into orbit and then sent their landers to the Martian surface. They took the first panoramic...
I was not aware we, meaning like a craft built by humans, visited Mars as early as the 70s. I thought the Mars rover was like way more recent. Well, I know there was a Mars rover that was way more recent, and I think there's Mars rovers that are pending future as well. But I had no idea that the first time we landed on Mars was in the 70s. That's crazy.
Color photos from the ground, monitored the weather, and conducted the first and only NASA biology experiments on Mars.
Look at that landscape. That's crazy. It's like the moon, but red. A lot of rocks. Ton of space rocks.
Mars, designed to look for possible signs of life in the Martian soil. The results were intriguing but ultimately inconclusive, fueling decades of debate and shaping how later Mars life search missions were designed. Discovery, a class of low-cost, highly focused robotic missions. Under this program, a scientist can propose a complete mission to answer a specific question. It has produced some of NASA's most famous science missions, including the Kepler Space Telescope that hunted for exoplanets.
I don't know what exoplanets are, but I have heard of the Kepler. And I'm going to have to look it up because the only thing I know about the Kepler, besides it's a space telescope, is that it's called the Kepler. That's the only thing I know.
Dawn mission that orbited 2 asteroids, and the Messenger probe that orbited Mercury. Discovery's competitive, cost-capped model has been one of NASA's most effective ways to generate high scientific return with relatively modest budgets.
Okay. That's cool.
New Frontiers. The medium-class missions. More ambitious and...
What planet is that? I'm really going to have to dig into planets. I don't even know if I can name all the planets. Yes, that makes me an idiot. I understand. It's been a long time since I've been in the classroom, but I'm going to have to look into all the planets and try to learn about them all because I couldn't even tell you what planet that is. That's really pretty, though.
Expensive than Discovery. This program tackles major strategic science goals. Its incredible successes include the New Horizons probe that gave us our first look at Pluto, the Juno orbiter currently studying Jupiter's deep interior, and the OSIRIS-REx mission that successfully returned a sample from an asteroid.
Okay.
New Frontier selections effectively serve as NASA's way of prioritizing the next must-do targets.
That's like, you know what that looks like? That looks like mid-2000s future tech. It doesn't look like tech that exists now, but it looks like what they would have thought tech in the 2020s would have looked like in the mid-2000s, like in the early 2000s. That's funny. I doubt we have anything that looks remotely like that. That's very drone-esque, but drones have to look a lot different than that because that's how aerodynamics work as far as I'm concerned.
Between smaller discovery missions and massive flagship efforts. Mars exploration.
Could we fly drones on the moon? There's a question I never considered. Wonder if that would work.
NASA's modern, sustained, multi-decade strategy for exploring the Red Planet. This is not a single mission, but a continuous umbrella program that has included a fleet of orbiters like the Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter and a series of iconic rovers. The Mars Exploration Rovers, Spirit and Opportunity, the Mars Science Laboratory, Curiosity, and the Mars 2020 rover, Perseverance.
Okay.
A key long-term thread of this program is the step-by-step push towards sample return and eventual human mission planning.
I will eventually do a video on the Mars rovers. It is in the queue already.
LRO, the modern workhorse of lunar exploration. Launched in 2009, LRO is a powerful orbiter that has been creating a comprehensive, high-resolution 3D map of the entire moon. Its mission is to identify safe landing sites, locate potential resources like water ice, and characterize the lunar radiation environment, providing the essential guidebook for the Artemis program. Its detailed imagery and polar observations have been crucial for understanding where future surface operations can be safest and most productive. Great observatories. This was a historic initiative to view the universe across the entire electromagnetic spectrum by launching a fleet of 4 powerful, complementary space telescopes.
I do not even know what the electromagnetic spectrum is. No idea.
The most famous was the Hubble Space Telescope, which observed invisible and ultraviolet light, revolutionizing nearly every field of astronomy and becoming a global cultural icon. To see the most energetic and violent events, NASA launched the Compton Gamma Ray Observatory, which detected supernovas and mysterious gamma-ray bursts. Its counterpart for the high-energy universe was the Chandra X-ray Observatory, designed to study extremely hot regions like exploding stars and the matter swirling around black holes.
You know what that looks like? It looks like an ice cream cone with wings.
And finally, the Spitzer Space Telescope was the infrared specialist, capable of peering through clouds of cosmic dust to see the birth of stars and planets, providing a complete, multi-wavelength view of the cosmos.
Okay.
JWST, the scientific and spiritual successor to Hubble. JWST is...
Oh, yeah. Okay. James Webb Space Telescope. I remember learning about this a few months ago when I went to Kennedy Space Center. That's really cool. I must not understand how telescopes really work, because none of the telescopes that are up there really look like telescopes to me. Like, what is this? Is that the sensor in the middle and the mirror? Like, I don't really know. I shouldn't talk about things I don't know.
The largest and most powerful space telescope ever built. It is an infrared observatory designed to see the very first stars and galaxies that formed after the Big Bang, study the formation of planetary systems, and analyze the atmospheres of distant exoplanets. Built in partnership with ESA and CSA, Webb also represents one of the most complex and internationally integrated science missions ever attempted.
That's cool.
Roman Space Telescope, the next great observatory. Roman is a wide-field infrared telescope with a field of view 100 times larger than Hubble's. It is designed to tackle the biggest mysteries in cosmology, including the nature of dark energy and dark matter, and it will conduct massive surveys to find thousands of new exoplanets. Its technology demonstrations and survey speed are meant to...
What is an exoplanet versus just like a planet? Is there a difference? I assume there is, otherwise just say planet, right?
complement Webb by trading ultra-deep detail for enormous statistical discovery power. Landsat. A joint program with the U.S. Geological Survey, Landsat is the longest-running enterprise for acquisition of imagery of Earth from space. Since 1972, the series of Landsat satellites has provided a continuous, unbroken record of our planet's land surfaces.
Are the Landsats currently owned by Google, or does Google just pay Landsat or whoever has the satellites out there? I assume that Google has a satellite, if not many. And I assume they do this exact same thing.
Allowing scientists to track deforestation, urbanization, glacial retreat, and agricultural changes over decades. Its long, consistent data record is one of the most valuable tools on Earth for comparing environmental change across generations.
Interesting.
EOS, a coordinated fleet of flagship satellites designed to study the Earth as a complete, complex system. The program's key satellites, Terra, Aqua...
Wow, are those all satellites they have? That's a lot of satellites. How many satellites are up there? Is there a running count? There's got to be a running count somewhere, right? I bet you it's in the tens of thousands.
and Aura work together to monitor the planet's land, oceans, atmosphere, and life, providing foundational long-term data sets for understanding climate and environmental change. EOS also helped establish the modern model of combining multiple instruments and satellites into integrated climate and Earth system monitoring. Thanks for watching. Which NASA program from this list do you think had the biggest impact on space exploration?
So this video, like I said, linked down in the description. You can go watch it without me pausing it 45,000 times. I appreciate you staying to watch this video. If there's anything you want to see me watch, drop in the comments and I will make sure to get to it. Leave a comment. I will make sure to respond, and have a great day on Earth.